Hello and welcome to Football Daily, where today we're not bringing you players or clubs or managers, but 10 of the most incredible facts about the beautiful game. 10. Real Madrid 6, Real Madrid 1. The 1980 Copa del Rey was lit up by a side wearing the famous white shirt of Real Madrid, but it wasn't the first team. Real Madrid Castilla, Los Blancos' academy team, became just the third team playing outside the top flight to reach the final, where they met the senior team, led by stars like Santillana and future World Cup winning manager Vicente Del Bosque. Castilla had knocked out Real Sociedad and Athletic Bilbao on their way to the final, netting 32 goals in 14 games. Unsurprisingly, when the decider was confirmed to be an all-white affair, it was held at the Bernabeu, with both sides enjoying the home field advantage. There was a reason the first teamers were in the first team. After an hour, they were 4-0 up, and although Castilla pulled one back through Ricardo Alvarez, who doesn't even have a Wikipedia page, the game ended 6-1 to the Real Madrid. Both sides celebrated after the final whistle, and Castilla played in the European Cup Winners' Cup the following season, the only reserve team to ever do so. 9. Football, not soccer. If you're American and get into an argument about soccer on Twitter, you'll at some point be told, it's called football. But while the Yanks may be routinely blamed for giving the world that word, it's actually a British invention, unlike the game itself, which, despite what the English would claim, has its origins in China and ancient Greece. Football can be referred to rugby, gridiron, Gaelic and Aussie rules football. Soccer only applies to the beautiful game, and came about as an abbreviation of association football, which is what it was called after the English FA. Meanwhile, Americans generally referred to the sport as football until the early 1900s, but that gradually disappeared as it caused confusion with the game played in the NFL. With soccer becoming the preferred term in the USA, the snooty Brits decided that the word wasn't cool anymore and went back to calling it football. Maybe we should all give up and just call it Calcio. 8. Guillermo Stabile. An Argentinian striker who played for Napoli, Guillermo Stabile was not expected to be a star at the first World Cup in 1930. He had never won a cap for the Albiceleste before, despite hitting 102 in 119 for Hurricane, and started the tournament on the bench, with captain Manuel Ferreira taking the striker spot. But Ferreira was forced to miss the second match because of a university exam, and Stabile deputised brilliantly. He scored a hat-trick in a 6-3 victory over Mexico, and was granted a run in the side, bagging 2 versus Chile, then another brace in the semi-final against the USA. In the final, Stabile netted again, giving his country a 2-0 lead at half-time. But opponents Uruguay rallied in the second period, scoring 3 without reply. Stabile finished the tournament as top scorer with 8, but bizarrely he was never called up to the national team again. As a result, he can claim to have scored in every match he played for Argentina, and to have averaged 2 goals a game during his international career, though Mussolini tried to get him to come out of retirement to feature for Italy at the next World Cup. 7. José Luis Chilavert. Paraguayan goalkeeper Chilavert was one of the great football showmen. Alongside René Higuita and Rogerio Ceni, he is one of the most unconventional men ever to play between the sticks, and won 6 titles in Paraguay, Argentina and Uruguay. Chilavert became famous for his set pieces, often taking free kicks and pens for club and country, and in 1994 he won the Copa Libertadores with Argentinian side Vélez Sarsfield, after scoring 1 penalty and saving another in the final shootout. In 1997-98, he got 10 league goals in a single season, something David Beckham could only manage on 1 occasion, and scored 8 international goals for his country, more than Patrick Vieira for France. Even more amazingly, in 1999, Chilavert bagged a hat-trick in a 6-1 drubbing of Ferro Carril Oeste. Unsurprisingly, they all came from the spot. He remains the only keeper to bag 3 in a professional match. 6. Samba style. There is arguably no sight more iconic in football than the green and gold strip of Brazil, but the Seleção didn't always dress in their national colours, most commonly turning out in all white for their first 36 years of competition, and even sporting red shirts in 1917. In 1950, Brazil hosted the World Cup for the first time, and were aiming to improve on their 3rd place finish at the previous tournament, before the Second World War in 1938. Victories over Spain, Sweden and Yugoslavia put them in the final against Uruguay, but at the final hurdle they fell to a 2-1 loss. The match, played in front of an audience of 200,000 people at Rio's Maracanã Stadium, stunned the whole country. Such was the confidence in Brazil's prospects that gold medals were made for the players beforehand. A newspaper, O Mundo, printed an early edition with a picture of the Seleção and the headline, "These are the world champions." The white kit worn in the game was now considered unlucky, and 19-year-old Aldir Garcia Schley won a competition to design the new strip, producing the Camisa Carinaro we know today. 5. The Pep Squad. Pep Guardiola must have been miserable in 2013. During his gap year after leaving Barcelona, the Catalan had announced that he would take charge of Bayern Munich the following summer, expecting to find the German giants struggling for domestic supremacy with Dortmund and without a Champions League triumph in 12 years. As it turned out, he joined a team which had just won an unprecedented treble of Pokal, Bundesliga and European Cup, losing a single match in the league and scoring nearly 3 goals per game, while conceding just 33 in 54. And though he won a title in each of his 3 seasons at the Allianz, Guardiola has often been criticised for failing to equal Jupp Heynck's all-conquering side. However, his Bayern arguably became even more dominant in domestic competition. In 2013-14, the club won the league by 19 points and conceded just 8 goals away from home. In fact, if Manuel Neuer had turned into Manuel Munia and every shot on target against Bayern had gone in, Die Roten would have finished the season on 42 points in 9th place and 15 points above the relegation zone. But Pep, sure, he's a bald fraud. 4. Laszlo Kubala. One of Hungary's many great players, Laszlo Kubala was a powerful forward who won 4 titles with Barcelona, hitting 194 goals in 280 games. He is still the Catalans' 3rd highest scorer of all time, but might not have ever reached Spain. After escaping Hungary in the back of a truck when the country came under communist rule in the 40s, Kubala was invited to play for Torino in an exhibition match against Benfica. He was only prevented by his young son suddenly falling ill, and the entire Torino team died in a Supercar air disaster while flying back from Portugal. Kubala is, officially, the only man ever to play for 3 international teams. A Hungarian of Slovak ethnicity, he was able to appear for both countries, and then played for Spain too during his time with Barcelona. He made a combined 11 appearances, scoring 9 goals. The only other man with a claim to the achievement is Real Madrid's Alfredo Di Stefano, who turned out for Spain, Argentina and Colombia, but at the time FIFA didn't recognise the Colombian FA. Still, Spanish fans got a treat in the 50s when the 2 rivals actually played together for La Roja, and they later re-teamed at Espanyol. 3. Manchester United's Academy. Long famed for the quality of their youth setup, Manchester United have come in for criticism in recent years. Though their teams have won the FA Youth Cup 10 times, more than any other side, they've done so just once since 2003, while Chelsea have lifted the trophy on 6 occasions in that period. But maybe the outlook isn't so bad. In 2016-17, players educated at Old Trafford played a combined 44,055 minutes in the Premier League, more than twice as many as academy graduates of Tottenham, who are second on the list. But even more remarkably, the Red Devils have now had at least 1 youth product in the squad for every single match they've played since 1937. That's 80 years and nearly 4,000 games. And those academy players include Ballon d'Or winners George Best and Bobby Charlton, as well as Scholes, Giggs and Gerard Piqué. 2. Giuseppe Bergomi. One club man, Giuseppe Bergomi, spent his whole 20-year career with Inter Milan, winning a single Serie A title and making 756 appearances, more than any other Nerazzurri player, except the immortal Javier Zanetti. Bergomi also won 81 caps for Italy and played at 4 World Cups, but never appeared in a single World Cup qualifier. At the 1982 tournament, Bergomi was a last-minute addition to the squad, having become Italy's youngest player since World War II at the age of 18. Italy won, so they didn't have to qualify for the 1986 tournament, while they hosted the 1990 competition, again skipping qualification. Finally, in 1998, at 34 years old, Bergomi was again called up at the 11th hour, slotting into a formidable Azzurri defence alongside Maldini and Costa Curta, and with Antonio Conte in front. Italy made the quarters before being knocked out by France, and Bergomi retired a year later. 1. Lightning kills football team. A tragic and almost unbelievable story now, as a game in the Democratic Republic of Congo was brought to an end in 1998 by the deaths of all 11 players on one of the teams. Benes Shadi were playing Basanga, and the score was poised at 1-1 when lightning struck the pitch. The Benin players, aged between 20 and 35, were all killed instantly, while 30 spectators also suffered burns. However, Basanga's men miraculously remained unharmed, sparking talk of witchcraft, which the paper reporting the incident, L'Avenir, claimed is common in the Congolese game. The BBC and The Guardian both picked up on the story, though the civil war in the country prevented L'Avenir's report from being independently substantiated. But bizarrely, it wasn't an isolated incident. A week earlier, in the South African Premier Division, a match between the Morocco Swallows and Jomo Cosmos was abandoned after 7 players and the ref were struck by lightning. Fortunately, no one was killed that time, though the Cosmos coach publicly accused Swallows of faking injury, given that they were 2-0 down in the final moments of the game. Congratulations, you've reached the end of the video. Your reward, the face of the poshest man in Football Daily. For more great content, why don't you click in this box here, and as always, don't forget to like and subscribe.